Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is that we need to get the belts off. So the power steering belt and the alternator air conditioning belt. The reason we have to take those off is because both of them thread over the main pulley on the crankshaft, and we have to take that pulley off. To take the power steering belt off, you can do that one first. We have to be able to get at the tensioner. Now the tensioner is actually not on the power steering pump itself, but on the idler pulley. And they do have an adjust bolt that you use to get to it, but it's a little bit tricky. Honda says the way to do it is to use this access port. There's a knockout plastic access port in the back of the light housing that you can supposedly feed an extension down and get to it. The adjust bolt is pretty much immediately below and just inside the alternator pulley. So kind of down in under here. Get a flashlight, see if you can kind of locate it. It's long and it runs with a threaded section through the idler pulley for the power steering belt. It's a bit of a trick to get to it. I've never been able to get to it using the way that Honda recommends. I've always done it by fashioning kind of a strange extension setup with the 12mm socket. That's what you'll need at the end, a universal joint, and then as many other extensions as I feel I need. So the way to get to it is really just to go straight down through here and then just hook it underneath the alternator pulley, but inside the alternator belt. So on the engine side of the alternator belt, and then you'll get it on. And then with the universal joint, as long as you bring it to the right angle, it won't bind up. Now before you turn it, you have to, and I've already done this, you have to loosen the bolt that goes through the idler pulley. You don't have to take it out, but just loosen it so that the idler can be relaxed as we loosen the tension. You will need a wrench for that. You can go down through the top. Because the splash guard is off the bottom of the engine, I find it easier to just kind of crawl underneath and do it under there. The other thing is that since we're going to be digging around the alternator area, by this point already, you probably have already done it, but if not, you should have disconnected the battery. The last thing that you want is to be working around metal tools by the positive lead on the alternator. If you've ever been shocked by that before, you know it's a pretty unpleasant experience, so it's not safe. Disconnect the battery. Here we go. Just get this on here. Goes to the left. And make sure that that bolt that goes through the idler pulley is already loose. And you start to get some slack in that belt. Just have to get enough that we can slip it off and we'll be good to go. Sometimes you have to give it a bit of a wiggle to get the idler to relax, but with enough, there. The belt will come off, the idler. The idler is easiest to get it off first. I can take this out because the idler has the shallowest grooves on it. And then just thread that out, and there. There's our power steering belt. There it is. Take it out, set it aside. Good opportunity to take a look at it. This one's still in pretty good shape. Just look for cracking, fraying, anything that looks like it might need to be replaced. If it needs to be replaced, buy another one. Good opportunity to put it on, and they're not that expensive. So I'll set that aside. Okay, to get the alternator belt off, the procedure is pretty much similar to what we did for the power steering belt. The difference is that it's a little bit more accessible. The first thing you need to do is loosen the adjust bolt that runs through the top of the alternator. So you can get to that. It's a 14 mil bolt, just a simple ratchet extension with a deep socket on it, or shallow socket would work fine. And then it's just right here at the top of the alternator body. Get to it here. There. And then just, shouldn't be super tight, but tight enough to hold the alternator in place. Loosen it off. That's just to allow the alternator to droop as we drop the tension. And then we can get out our fancy extension set up again with the universal joint on it and the 12 mil socket. And that will go right down here onto the tensioning nut, which you'll be able to find just by looking pretty much directly below the smaller the two plugs that goes into the alternator. And again, to the left, and it will loosen off. Sometimes you have to coax it a little bit. Yeah, the belt's pretty loose. Looks like we'll need to just hit it with the, loosen the tensioner off just a little bit more, and we'll be free. And there, the belt snaps off. Same like the power steering belt, we can just coax it out, loop it off that main pulley. Remember which one it is. Again, take a look at it. This one looks fine. Look for cracks, fraying, set it aside. So there, the belts are off.